One of the biggest questions that we're answering on a daily basis in our support is how do I come up with content for videos? So if you've got a product to promote or a service, how do I know what videos to put on YouTube? How do I know what ideas to put in that video? How do I know how to do the titles, how to do the marketing and everything that goes behind that? Now, the way that I've always done this is research, right? I just research what's working. But right now, there's a big revolution in AI that is enabling us to make videos. So I asked Mike Filsaime to sit down with me and explain exactly how you can make content for your videos and use a new tool that he is launching called Groove AI, right? This tool is going to show you how to give you all the prompts and everything that you're going to be able to need to create all your marketing. And that includes videos. And I actually asked him specifically how this will help with videos. And he went into great detail. So this is not one to miss, right? Even if you kind of think you know it all about AI, or you've kind of a bit of head of the game like you probably are compared to me, trust me, there's going to be some gold nuggets in here because, like I say, this is the question that everyone asks on a daily basis. So without further ado, straight into it. Here he is, Mike Filsaime. Hey, what's up, Mike? How's it going, man? Thank you so much for coming on today and taking some time out to show us and talk to us about Groove.ai. So the way we're going to structure this interview today, guys, is if you're listening on the podcast, we're going to have an interview. Mike's going to tell you why this is the revolution and why. And to be honest, I actually hopped on a call with Mike literally a week ago today, actually at exactly the same time, ironically. And he showed me everything because I'm a novice when it comes to AI. So I'm not going to pretend I'm like the world's best sort of ChatGPT, whatever person, which is great because that means that obviously Mike's going to be showing me as much as he's showing you. But what he actually showed me last week was amazing. So he's going to probably do some demos and things like that, depending on time because he's really busy. But having said that, he has agreed to pop on. I can interview him and we can talk about like why creating this using the amazing AI technology out there is going to be really helpful for marketers and why this is going to be great. So, yeah. So first of all, Mike, why did you decide to create Groove.ai? What was your inspiration for that?
And first, Paul, thanks for that intro. Thank you for having me. So my inspiration for Groove.ai was fascination and complete awe and understanding. I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that have come around in technology over the years that I had fascination and awe, but not necessarily understanding nor the need for adding it into my DNA in an entrepreneurial way. The App Store came out, on iOS, in 2007, 2008. I never felt the need to go out and start an app company. First of all, to market an app that cost 99 cents and whether it would be a game and everything, that would have just been chasing an opportunity. I like to do something where I feel that I could actually be the best in the game at it. From many points of view, many of the things that I've done when I've created software always came with an educational component around it. When I did my first product, I was the second guy to ever do that $1 million launch. I created a product called Butterfly Marketing. And, I took a course, one of the courses told me that come out with a, cool name that, attracts intrigue, so it was really a course on viral marketing, this all types of viral marketing. So I came up with butterfly marketing and I tied that into the butterfly effect and chaos theory and all those different things. And, basically a butterfly flapping its wings creates, a butterfly effect. So that was the viral marketing component. But I really revolutionized the game back then with one-click technology, the one-time offer, when people call it either an OTO or an OTO, that came from, my report that I wrote. I was tired of writing one-time offers so many times. I wrote OTO. Then after that, it was Webinar Jam and Ever Webinar. When Rich Sheffrin wrote a report on event-driven evergreen marketing, that's where I took the evergreen and I created Ever Webinar, and we really helped bring the automated webinar to the industry. I was very happy with with technology, and when we created Groove, the .cm brand, we wanted to create an all-in-one platform. And that was my frustration with having to use, I'm not going to name any names, but X to do my sales and Y to do my email, and just especially in the late in 2009 to 2014. Now there's those platforms have all gotten better, but they still got to be duct taped together. So I was at a WebinarCon in Austin, and Sean Vossler, very quiet. There's a speaker speaking, and we really couldn't talk. I'm getting up probably to go get water or coffee, maybe use the men's room, and I'm walking by him, and he taps me and goes, "Hey, Mike," and very quietly, because there's a speaker talking. I said, yeah, what's up? And he goes, "Look at this," and he's in the Jasper dashboard, and he types in, "Write me an email promoting groove.cm," and all of a sudden it wrote. And so this is in September of 2022. And it was the first, and I'd heard about Jasper before that, but this is when ChatGPT 3.5 had come out just a couple of months earlier. And Jasper quickly went from, you can kind of use it to write headlines, but it's not a copywriter and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, the hairs on my hands. Now, today we understand, right? It's like, talking about what a calculator did. If you would have seen it in 1865, right? Like, your mind would have been blown. Today, if you see it, you're like, well, whatever, right? But this was before ChatGPT had come out. And I thought that Jasper had created something revolutionary. I thought that, like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing in the world. True artificial intelligence, which it is. But I later came to find out that Jasper was a user interface company that built a user interface around OpenAI's API. So fast forward 2 months later, ChatGPT comes out. I don't have to tell you, that it could almost be like Kennedy or assassination or 9/11. One day you'll say to somebody, "Where were you when ChatGPT came out?" Because it literally came out for everybody. As they say, everything, everywhere, all at once. And so now I'm in a Skype group with my team, and again, just things that are funny today, but that nobody cares. But back then, we were like, "Write me a poem about Groove. Write me a joke, about this, and write a script for a Family Guy." And we're like, "Oh my God, it's like nothing this thing can't do." So then I started playing with it, and within 3 weeks, I've got two things going on. I'm having this miraculous conversation with it, but then I'm also getting frustrated with it, because I went to New York Institute of Technology. I studied computer science. For me, computers have always been, created in a way that's not technical, but a processor basically follows instructions. Instructions are code, and they use things like Boolean, meaning it goes here, and when it hits a tree, if the name starts with an A, then go here. Else go here, and And the very first thing my computer instructor told me in my senior year in high school, when they brought computer programming to the class, he wrote on the whiteboard. He said, "A computer will always do what you tell it to do, but that's not always what you want it to do." Meaning, if it's doing what you told it to because it can only follow instructions. Now, if it's not giving you the output, you've got to go back and recode it because you've created a bug or you didn't program it right. When AI came out, it was the first time that they've actually put a brain inside of Frankenstein and said, "Okay, guys, we're going to hit that switch. We don't know what's going to happen." And they hit a switch. And so if I create a computer program and I ask it a question, you ask it a question, we're going to get the same answer. With AI, if I ask it a question and you ask it a question, it's like if you and I do this podcast again a week from now, I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm not going to use the same words, right? That's like how it is with ChatGPT. So they created this thing that was basically like this sort of dimensional sentient being. And I didn't quite understand how it worked. And so when I told it to do something and then it did it, and I said, let's just give an example. Write me a story about Ben Franklin, make it fun, witty, and and write it in rhymes, right? And everything has to rhyme. So cool. And then I say, okay, now do for George Washington. And then I say, now, and then by the time I get to Abe Lincoln, it's not rhyming anymore. And if anybody's ever used ChatGPT, they know they said something like, "Hey, remember you?" Oh, right. And it's always like, "I'm so sorry. It's a large language model. I apologize. Yes, here." And it's like, And now all of a sudden it's not being funny anymore. And then so I started looking into what was going on, and I really took a deep dive into what they call parameters, the training data, what are tokens, what are token windows, what are basically the context length windows, all of these different things. That's I don't even want to get into here. And then I finally understood, okay, I kind of see what's going on. And just to give an example, a metaphor, and I might have told you this the other day, basically what you're talking to is when a language model is basically an all-knowing being on its way to being an all-knowing God, right? And it has a photographic memory, and it knows everything that it's learned with perfect recall. The only problem is every time you start a new conversation with it, you're starting, let's say that all-knowing being, let's just use the term Albert Einstein. It's Albert Einstein with dementia. So you can only have a conversation with it so long. By the time you're at the 15th part of the conversation, let's say you've gotten from George Washington to Abraham Lincoln, you can say, who was the first person I asked you about? It'll just make something up and say, oh, you asked me about Napoleon. You go like, no, I didn't. I asked you about George Washington. Oh, yes, I'm right. And that's because ChatGPT is basically a genius with dementia. And then once I started realizing that, I said, okay, I think I know how I could, now that I know the faults, and I know that everybody needs to be a prompt engineering specialist, act like, a direct response copywriter in the style of Dan Kennedy, speak to a digital marketing audience with an avatar of this and all of these different things. And every time you start a new conversation, it's dementia. It's forgotten that. Now you got to reprime it again and give it another instruction. And when I saw that, I said, okay, this is great. I'm going to create a layer on top of that that's going to take care of all these problems. So people are going to get perfect output without having to know that they need to know what types of frameworks are on copywriting. So a little bit of a long answer, but that's really what got me excited in AI.
Yeah. So you kind of you was chatting to somebody at GrooveCon, and you kind of
WebinarCon.
Sorry. Yeah. WebinarCon, of course. So basically then you basically started to look at Jasper, reverse engineer, ChatGPT come out, and you just to paraphrase everything you just said, basically you decided, as you're an engineer, as you come from an engineering background, you decided to reverse engineer everything, work it all out, and realize, hang on a minute, there's probably a big gap in the market. But not only that, you were just genuinely interested, right? So you were kind of like digging in, trying to understand how it all worked. And I just wanted to go back on a couple of things you said before that, kind of your background and butterfly marketing. Obviously, I actually found your old butterfly marketing on eBay a few years ago, and I went into it, and it was kind of fascinating. And then you released an updated version with Groove when you launched Groove. And I was listening to a interview with Neil Patel. He was on Pat Flynn's podcast, which is like the SPI podcast. And it was kind of fascinating because he was saying, like, Netflix, even though they're the biggest company in the world, and they were first, obviously they're big, but some of these companies he thinks are getting it a bit wrong. And he was talking a little bit about kind of butterfly marketing, but kind of in a slightly different way, but pretty much the same principle. And he was saying, like, if you wanted to kind of come out with a webinar software or come out with a new like autoresponder or something like that, you could basically release it for free and build a massive email list. And as long as it's like a good quality product, it's going to work and it's going to build. And I know you used the butterfly marketing principle when you launched Groove as well. So I just wanted to highlight that because you mentioned that as part of your sort of backstory. And I've been thinking about that for years. Like, what could I come up with that I could release for free, build a massive list and have a massive audience? And I know, that is kind of like been your philosophy for like years. I mean, I know you said as well, it went away and then it came back. And I think this is better than ever. And I know, because you gave me a demo, we'll talk about that in a minute, especially when you give us a demo, but I know that you may have a free version coming for that as well. I don't know if that's something I'm supposed to say, but you did show me something.
There's we'll talk about that at the end. We'll give somebody a link to basically the free version, which is a Chrome extension that you could use anywhere all over the web.
Yeah. And that's kind of your philosophy, is give stuff away for free. You build know, like, and trust, obviously, and you're giving something that somebody can actually use. And look at
the biggest companies in the world. Let's just start. Obviously Apple, their biggest freemium component would basically be the preview of the song. At Apple Music used to be um, iTunes. But let's take Apple out of the way. You've got Facebook is a free product. Gmail is a free product. Yahoo, Microsoft, all those companies start with, the Google Docs, right? Microsoft got forced to give stuff away for free because Google Docs is free. And then you'll find your power users. There's Dropbox.
Yeah.
There's Trello. You take a look at almost all of these companies, they're going to have a free component. And what they do is another one, Calendly, right? I go to use Calendly the other day. I'm like, why in the world would anybody pay for this? And then I get to one thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I need a second calendar. All right, well, you're getting my $10 a month, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
But they didn't have to get me with this long video, to completely understand it. They just basically had to say, get your free calendar link, and then it goes viral. That's the butterfly marketing is whenever you have something where somebody invites somebody to use it, when Calendly sends, you send me a Calendly invite, I powered by Calendly. And then when we're done, or Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Zoom is free. Yeah. It is. This is a paid account, right?
Yeah. Well, it is.
Mine's a paid
Funnily
account.
enough, I just paid for it today because I only get 40 minutes now. It used to be free forever. And they've obviously blown up during the pandemic. And now they've obviously locked down some of the features. So 40 minutes is what I get. And obviously we might.
And 40 minutes is just enough for you to say, it's just enough for you to say, I don't want to be embarrassed. Like either whether it's on a podcast or with a meeting for somebody to go, hey, can we hang up and get back in? I've got the free account, right? So you're like, $10 a month, right? So how genius is that, right?
And also while I was paying for it, all the other features come up and I was thinking, hang on, everyone's running webinars on Zoom. I use Webinar Jam, Everwebinar, one of your old products.
Yeah.
But everyone's now running them on Zoom. All the big marketers running on Zoom. Everybody's switching to Zoom. Like GoToWebinar now is kind of like a bit ancient, right? And GoToWebinar was the main thing for years. A lot of people are using Zoom. And I was thinking, oh, okay, that seems reasonable. I might try that out. And I hadn't even really thought about it until I upgraded today, right? So it's kind of like, there it is. Everyone's using it. Maybe I'll think about that. But it's planted in my head. So when I do run a webinar that Zoom might be a good fit for, I'm obviously there. And by the way, I just wanted to pick up on one thing you said. When you talked about Apple, if you think about iTunes, right? I can remember, obviously, everyone going to a shop and buying records, right? And that was then replaced by free music, which then Spotify and Apple iTunes kind of, I don't know who has the bigger slice of the market, but Spotify.
Probably Spotify, but
Sorry?
Yeah, but probably Spotify is probably 3 times bigger than Apple, but that was 2-3 years ago. I mean, who knows now? Because Apple gives you free 90 days or free 6 months with every new iPhone. So they've got the ability, and again, free, right? Whether it's not free forever, but they're getting you in at least with no credit card. That's the other thing. The no credit card required free is very important, because even a credit card where it's free for 6 months, that we still consider that a friction point or a paywall. So very important if you go to groove.cm, it says no credit card required. And at groove.ai, we're not mentioning it now, and I don't think it's going to serve anybody here, but it will be free in the following ways. If Paul, you use groove.ai and you have a team of 9 people, you should be able to share a project with your team. And now, since you're paying the expenses of the API key and all those different things, if you give them the permissions, they can go in and create content. But that's your account, and you could add, 25 people on there to come and work. What that does is, imagine how terrible it would be if everybody you invited needed a paid account. Like that would start. And then like, even for me, I'd be like, well, how am I going to get around this? But luckily my brain always worked this way, is we give them free account. They can do anything in your account. And then we give them the ability to create a project. But as soon as they create a project, it's limited, right? Like they only get 3 chats, 2 documents. They can create a knowledge base, but they can't use it. And they can use a preset, but they can't save it. So they can actually go in and play with the tool. That's the other thing, is get them engaged, like what we were just talking about with Calendly or Zoom. Get the person to first use it and then say, oh, I got to upgrade to get this feature. Screw it, I'll just upgrade. So that's so So we have that viral nature with it by you inviting anybody on your team or sharing it with a client or sharing something like let's say you showed me something Groove.ai and I said, oh, that's cool. Can you share that with me? If I didn't have an account, you'd share it. I'd look at it and be like, this is a cool platform. I should get my own account. So that's the viral nature.
What's funny is because when we were on that call last week, you obviously gave me an in-depth and like you kind of went through it as though I was like in kinder school, right? Because I'll give you my experience, right? Because I know there'll be a lot of people thinking, well, why would I need Groove.ai? Because I kind of think like that as well. And I think that's a good sort of place to sort of start with kind of why this is going to be a good tool for the industry, because I get it now. So kind of I can remember my friend Marcus, who lives in Brighton, where I actually kicked on his floor when I started my first business 20 odd years ago. But that's another story. But basically, I was kind of like, he was showing me ChatGPT and he was obsessed with it. And I kind of got a bit mind blown. I was like, this is scary, right? I was thinking Terminator, you know, all this kind of stuff's coming, which may be in 50 years, but it's not coming right now, right? And I've seen loads of documentaries since. It's not really like, it's not like that. It's more kind of what man will abuse it for in the future is kind of more of a worry. Not
well, without going down the rabbit hole, that's the thing is this thing is not evil. So if it were to do evil things, it's like saying the nuclear bomb created evil. No, it's the person that, you know, gave the order, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like these things are created and they put guide rails on, and the guide rails is to teach it to be nice and, you know, and polite and all these different things. But if you tell it that your job is to, you know, blah, 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 well, it's not being evil, but it's going to follow those orders. And so that's the concern is we've created a hydrogen bomb or an atom bomb. But, you know, 75 years ago when we did that, it required massive scientists, uranium, which is almost impossible to get, and the ability to build it and then test it. And when you test it, you let everybody know. Now we've created something that is super powerful, and the language models by Meta are being leaked. Not leaked, they've just given Llama 2, and now you could get it, and now you can reprogram it any way you want and put it out into the world. And so that's the problem is we've democratized the hydrogen bomb, right? And that's what has everybody scared.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of that, and it was a mixture of, oh my God, this is now, this is come, this is kind of a bit, I think I was just overwhelmed. And obviously there was a lot of stuff on especially when it first launched, there was a lot of conspiracy theories out there, right? So you hear all that, but that wasn't my main concern. My main concern was I've seen technology go like this, right? I would say the biggest leap in technology was probably, you know, when we had the internet, perhaps. Like we had computers, we had games, we had a few apps, we had a few things going on. Then suddenly the internet came along around 94, I think, ish, maybe a bit earlier, but that was kind of when it started to sort of really explode. And that was the wheel, right? That was kind of the next, that's going to go down in history as the thing that kind of like revolutionized the late 20th century and beyond. And now we've got the next one, which I think is kind of AI. And I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't understanding that we were anywhere near it. It just sort of appeared, right? And it's just taken me this time personally to digest it and get there and understand it. And like when you showed me, that really brought me up to speed. Like, hang on a minute. We've got ChatGPT. We've got Bard. I know you said there was another one, but I'm not sure what it is.
There's about 7 of them. There's stability.ai, there's Bard, there's Claude.ai, Facebook has Llama, and there's OpenAI.
And I think ChatGPT is the king at the moment. I don't know.
By OpenAI. ChatGPT.
By OpenAI.
By far.
Yeah. And then you obviously explained, because I thought originally when you launched Groove, I thought Groove was another open.ai type platform. I didn't understand. And then, you know, I'll let you explain it, obviously, how it was. But then when you showed me and you explained, hang on a minute, and the way I understood it was like, if you go and get a car, like a set of wheels for a car, right, that's ChatGPT. So you've got a set of wheels, right? ChatGPT can do so much. And like you say, and I know you'll explain this in a minute, but it's got limited learning capability. It's got limits, but it's obviously That's where all the technology, the base technology lies. Now, what it's done is it's called open AI because people can develop tools. Now, for our industry, you have developed the one for marketing, for marketers, for emails, for webinars, for this, for that. And that was when I realized that, hang on a minute, if I want a sports car, I buy a Ferrari or a Lambo or whatever, right? If I want to go and like live on a farm, I put those set of wheels. I mean, there'll be slightly different wheels, obviously, but I put them on a Land Rover or a 4x4 and so on. And actually what you've done is you've come up and said, hang on a minute, marketers need this. They need a tool for this. They need something that's going to serve them. And we're going to use the technology. And you're not just using ChatGPT, you're using but anyone you want to use. So whatever's your favorite one, you plug it in, and this then becomes your engine. This now becomes your chassis. This becomes your marketing sports car, right? So now we can use this, and we can use it for email marketing. I'm not saying you can't use ChatGPT to some extent for that, but this is designed. Yeah, I'll let you explain this bit.
Yeah,
it's going to learn, right? So you're going to be able to set all your stuff up inside of it. Yeah, I'll let you take it from there, man. But that was the bit where I got the massive aha, right?
Yeah, you helped me come up with another good way to explain it, and then we'll jump in and show it.
Probably better than mine.
Yeah, let's say we showed you Microsoft Excel or a spreadsheet, right? Google Sheets, right? But let's just call it a spreadsheet for now. We're in Google Sheets. Let's say that we were at the time where that just came out. Let's call that essentially the ChatGPT time. So what would happen is everybody would have rushed for about 6 months showing you all the different types of things you can do with a spreadsheet. Accounting people would be like, so check this out. If you want to do accounting with it, like, right, you could put a customer's name over here, and you could put what they owe you and then your profit margin, and they would show you how that works. And now somebody else might use it and be like, well, I'm using it, to run my dog walking business. So I use this like the date column and everything like that. So essentially, Google Sheets is an engine that could do all of these different things, and everybody is out there showing you how to do it. And then somebody else comes out and says, well, I've created this accounting software plugin that goes over Google Sheets, and it reskins it. It doesn't even look like a sheet anymore. And now it's meant to do simply accounting for a restaurant business or whatever the case, right? And I've created one that lets you run your menu for your restaurant business, right? Essentially. So that's what we've done is we've taken something that is a shell, right? Like a spreadsheet, which is what ChatGPT is. It could be an alternative to Google search engine, but to do copywriting, we've put a huge layer on top of it to turn that into a tool for digital marketers.
Yeah. And I thought of a couple of others while you said that. Shopify, for instance, that's the same thing, isn't it? It doesn't come. You have to build a theme. You have to build everything on it. And WordPress, all of these things are based.
Exactly. Before Shopify, there was WordPress. And then you could go out and get all of these different things and like create a store, then buy the payments thing, and then buy the, plug in a ship station thing and all these different things. And then Shopify was like, no, we've created all that for you. So but other people created like Kajabi, which is a content management system. Their first version was built on WordPress. So again, like you just said it, like ChatGPT is like WordPress, and now the custom solutions are being built on where people like, oh, I didn't even know this was built on WordPress, right? Because WordPress was the foundation. So that's what Groove.ai is. It's a layer on the top of the foundation of ChatGPT that just when a user sees it, that's a digital marketer. They're going to be like, well, I'll never need ChatGPT for digital marketing. I'm going to keep ChatGPT. I still use it 9 times a day. And I'm going in there, if I'm having a problem on my iPad, every time I'm grabbing my phone, my AirPods go back to my computer and then and I'm like, I'm always saying, Paul, hold on a second. My iPad's just picked up on my computer. I'm not going to go to Groove.ai to do that. I can, but I'll just go to ChatGPT and say, how do I shut off the handoff? Step 1, go to privacy, that type of stuff. So in that case, I'm still going to use ChatGPT, but not as much for my content creation.
Yeah. So, but it's obviously, so when you go into Groove AI, so, obviously I'll let you show some stuff or whatever you want in a sec. I mean, we're kind of on the time limit now. So what we might do, guys, is move over to the video version. So if you're listening on the podcast, we'll probably wrap this up here because we're literally, I know Mike's got another call straight after this. So we're going to wrap this up now for this part of it. And we'll go over to the YouTube, which will continue. And then I'm sure Mike will give us a bit of a demo on a couple of things. But just before we wrap this up, just one last story. I remember you mentioning something about the film Memento. Would you mind giving that analogy? Because I think that was really good for people to understand how your software differs from ChatGPT. And
yeah, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah,
and I have a slide that kind of what I showed you on the whiteboard, I put into a slide. So
yeah. So just while you're doing that, Mike, just if you're listening on the podcast, please now head over. The link is in the show notes, and you'll be able to go straight and watch the rest of this from there. Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
So these are the different language models, right? And you're noticing they all, like, why did Google call it PaLM? Well, it's the LM. It's and Stability called it Stability MM. Meta called it Llama, LLM. It just basically meant large language model. And so essentially, this is what I was showing you, Paul, the other day, and I'm going to try to visualize it for people that are listening on the podcast, is we're looking at a 4-square system, and there's 4 squares to a language model. The top left square is the wisdom, which basically means, how did we train Albert Einstein, right? In this case, basically when they talk about the parameters, that means if you were looking at a human brain, and let me just put the animation on here. If you were looking at a human brain compared to a chimp, we have more neural network connections. More than a chimp has more than a snail, right? And a snail has more than a gnat. And so we just basically have more neural networks, more connections, creates more complexities. It's the same thing in a large language model. They just call them parameters, and they basically connect all of the information. And now the large language model knows that a rat and a mouse are more similar than a mouse and a giraffe, but they're nowhere near a rock. Right? A rock is close to sand and pebble, and they just put all of these different things, and then, like, our brain connects these different things, so does the language model. And so the more that it's trained, on more parameters and more words, basically, the smarter it is. And that's the difference between ChatGPT 3 or 3.5 or 3.5 Turbo and ChatGPT 4. But the next thing in the top right, this is what you were talking about, Paul. And over here, I call this Lenny, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this and go to the next slide here. And I have a picture here of Lenny from Memento. And underneath that, if people haven't watched that movie, I highly recommend you do, is a picture, a before and after picture of Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler going to bed at night in the movie 50 First Dates. Paul's laughing because this is completely absurd what happens the next morning, right? You can see it's a little dim, it's nighttime, and then Drew Barrymore wakes up the next morning and sees Adam Sandler, and she forgets the previous day. Every day her brain resets. She can't keep a memory more than 24 hours. So she wakes up, sees a guy in her bed, and she screams, oh my God, there's a man in my bed. And he's like, no, we're married. It's okay. And everything like that.
He has to win her over every day, doesn't he? Basically,
he has to win her over every day. It's sort of like a Groundhog Day with memory.
Yeah.
So Lenny's situation was a little different. Lenny's situation lasts about 4 minutes. So if you're having a conversation with Lenny, I have a picture here of Lenny talking to a guy at a motel, and it's the motel operator. And so he walks up and he says, Lenny's literally saying this right now. Hi, I just want to let you know I have a condition and I can't form any new memories. And the guy is just looking at him, and I'll have to describe my look. It's kind of looking at him a little side-eyed with a smirk. And then Lenny realizes, I've told you this before. And then the guy goes, yeah, man, you've been staying here for 2 months. You tell me the story every morning. You really don't remember. We were just talking 10 minutes ago. He says, no, I'm sorry. He's like, I don't know. And then Lenny later comes to find out the guy's renting him 2 rooms. The guy was like, well, business is a little slow, and I spoke to my boss about you. And he said, well, if he really doesn't remember, try to sell him another room. So Lenny had 2 different rooms. So, but anyway, if you were talking to Lenny in his house, and you said, hey, excuse me, do you have a bathroom? And he said, yeah, right over there. When you came back into the room, he would say, "Excuse me, what are you doing in my house?" And you'd be like, "Lenny, I'm your friend. I've known you for 6 years. Look at the little note over there." And he'd have to read and be like, "Oh yeah, here's a Polaroid with me and him, at a NASCAR game and all these different things." In this metaphor, when we're talking about ChatGPT is essentially Lenny. In this top right quadrant that we're talking about, every single time you start talking to ChatGPT and you start a new conversation, yes, Lenny got thieves broke into his house. They killed his wife. They hit him over the head with a lead pipe, and he can remember everything up until the day of the accident, but he can't form new memories from that day. So that's ChatGPT. You start a new chat, and it's like Lenny walking in the room, and it knows all of its memories. But when you start talking to it, if you start talking to it about George Washington, and then John Adams, and then Thomas Jefferson, again, by the time you get to Abraham Lincoln, you're going to say to it, "Lenny, hey, who was the first person I spoke to you about?" It's supposed to be George Washington. Now, Lenny doesn't want to be embarrassed, so he makes something up and goes, "I believe you asked me to talk about Johnny Carson." You're like, "No,
Yeah.
where did you just made
It
that
just
up?"
makes it up.
It just makes it up. And so,
Oh, sorry. I just want to give you one example of this because I had a similar incident. So me and my friend were playing around on ChatGPT a little while back, and I kept asking it who had created his podcast, and it kept saying people that he basically spoke about on the podcast. So each episode he'll have like a subject matter that he'll talk about. It was like an art podcast, and it was just basically every time. So who creates the podcast? It's called Mod Night is Rubbish. And then it would say the Mod Night is Rubbish is by, and then it would just like say somebody that'd been on. And then later on we'd ask it, and then it would just say someone else. And we'd say, no, it's by, and we'd tell them. And then it would say, yes, you're right. And it would just agree.
Yes,
with you.
I apologize. Yes, you're right.
I apologize. Yes, you're right. And then later on we'd ask it, and it'd go, it's by someone else. It'd be like really random.
And then you start getting mad. And so that's the thing is, and so this is what I try to tell people. And when I say that you're talking to Albert Einstein with dementia, I don't want to get too much into it, but close family members, of mine have it. We've lost family members to it. My partner's mom had it; she passed away. It's a terrible, terrible disease. But in that same sense, if you were to get frustrated with somebody with dementia and they say, "So I heard you're going on vacation," and you just answer that. If you were to say, "I just told you we're going away," like that, it's just as irrational for you to do that with ChatGPT because it has what they call a token length or a context window. Basically, ChatGPT 3.5 had 4,000 tokens, which is 4,000 words. That's all it means. And then it went to 16,000 and then 32,000. And that's why if you try to paste in something that you wanted to rewrite and you put 6 pages from a Google Doc, it says too much. Try breaking it up. And then you give it 3 and then 3 and then 3. And you're like, oh, I got around this. I'm just going to keep pasting 1 page at a time until I get all 50 pages in. No, you're pasting that information to Lenny. It's only going to remember the last 3 or 4 pages. And when you ask it, what was the first page about? It's going to say Napoleon, right? Because its context window, its dementia situation can't go past that many minutes in a conversation. So we get past that in Groove.ai with a knowledge base. And that means you can basically, it's like uploading information to Lenny that happened before his accident. So it's a way to seed the language model with information that is important to you, that it may not have access to, like maybe all of the content in my help desk, right? And now I can create something that can answer all the questions for my team, for my customers about my software, something like that. So that's what a knowledge base is, and that's something we have that ChatGPT doesn't have.
So Groove.ai basically will understand what it is that you've done, and you can build your own knowledge base, right? You can literally put in, you can kind of, didn't you say it was sort of like building an avatar? So you can build an avatar, you can build somebody who you want to talk to, and it will write you marketing letters, it will write your emails, it will create you a webinar, it will do whatever you want to do. And you basically get to train Groove AI. And in that way, it's not going, obviously it's going to be using the technology, but it's going to be building that based on what you give it, which I just think is incredible. So it means that it's going to kind of revolutionize marketers, because some of the tools that we've had out there are kind of primitive already. Won't mention what they are, but like I've known some tools that kind of did some of this stuff, but they did it based on prompts and based on kind of some things that you had. Whereas this is now using AI technology. It's kind of the next revolution, which I just think is amazing. So yeah, anything else you want to like show us or tell us about Groove.ai? And then what I'll do is we'll drop a link in the show notes so that people can go and check it out. Obviously,
I think that's the best thing. Yeah, let them see it for themselves in the show notes. The link that you're going to provide has two things, Paul. It has a don't get scared, everybody, when you're hearing, because it's broken up into parts that you could skim through. It's a 2-hour and 20-minute webinar. But the last hour is me talking about how you can get it, how you can get a white label, and then 40 minutes of a Q&A session, right? So if we break that out and we talk about what is the webinar really, the first hour is kind of like what we're talking about. And I dive deeper into this Lenny stuff and a little bit of the history of AI. And if you're interested in that, great. But if not, you can just scroll down the page a little bit. And the second video on the page for the link in the description is where I took the demo portion of the webinar and I just clipped it from start to finish. And I got a 40-minute demo that's on the page. So if people want to, they say, no, I kind of got it here from this podcast, they could go to the link in the description. They could scroll down to the second video on the page, and you're just going to see me going, all right, so let's show you how Groove.ai works. And then there's a complete walkthrough of it there. And so any way they want to learn it, they can learn it there from the link in the description.
That's brilliant. One last thing then. So just so that we can so I know that a lot of my audience like creating videos. They like doing YouTube because that's kind of what I teach, right? So just give me a couple of ways that people could use this for creating YouTube videos.
Okay, so one of the things that's not out right now, because the Content Copilot is more of, and you can do it actually with the Content Copilot because we did it in YouTube, but we're going to be doing something actually a little bit better because I'm working with a girl named Amanda Vandergulik who took your course and everything like that.
Yeah. And
what we're going to have is we're going to have a task that all of this stuff is built in. So what you're going to do is you'll be able to give a topic. If I remember how it worked, what it's going to do, you're going to give a topic, and it's going to create the talking points of the video. It'll write your YouTube title. It'll write the meta tags. It'll write the description. It'll give you instructions on. It'll create the image for your thumbnail, and it'll create the text, the three words that need to go on the thumbnail, and a viral title for your video that is going to get clicks, but also help you get found in the algorithm. So just like that, those types of things, it's going to help you create your content, or you can just take your video that you recorded and paste it in, and it'll automatically create your thumbnail, your title, your description, and your keywords. For you. So those are examples of things that, when you've created the video, you're kind of tired and you're like, all right, so, and you kind of just rush through, all right, 10 best ways to create a funnel, right? But when you actually upload the transcript, which you can get from YouTube, you can get the transcript from YouTube in about 5 minutes by pasting your video at youtubetranscript.com. Once it's been on YouTube for 5 minutes. So you just click copy, paste that into our little widget, and it will design your thumbnail, your title, your keywords, your description. But there'll be more things in terms of helping you come up with topics. Like you'll be able to give it a topic, and then it'll come up with the top 10 things that are searched for in that topic. And it'll say, you should make a YouTube video about this, make a YouTube video about that. And you're like, okay, great. If I were to make a YouTube video about that, give me the outline. It'll say, here's the outline. And now you'll say, okay, now give me the talking points. And for each part of the outline, it'll give you the talking points. And now, if you know anything about that subject, you can do it. Or you can just say, now write me the entire script, and it'll write the script. And then you can say, okay, now I'm going to train you on my voice. And now you can paste the script in, and it'll automatically read it for you. I'm going to do something, Paul, if we've got just a second. I don't even have to share my screen.
Yeah,
but
go for it.
let me load up my
just
my
while you're
Wave
loading
link
that
here.
up, I just want to make a point on what you just said. Guys, if you didn't just hear that, go back and listen to that again, right? Because one of the biggest questions that I get asked on a daily basis, we get into our support, Kevin gets them, is how do I create videos? How do I come up with titles? And our response is always the same: research, go and find out what's working, right? Go and see what other thumbnails are working. You can see by the views. You can dig in and look. Go and look at authors. Go and look at titles. That's the same answer every time. Well, ChatGPT does that and loads more. It's built into Groove.ai, which means that Groove are going to basically do all that for you. So we can eliminate that question by plugging that in, and it's going to be able to build. I already know this, right? I'm kind of scared as well that this is going to basically bombard YouTube, right? There's going to be people that spam YouTube with lots of crazy content and God knows what, right? That's coming. But that's the way everything works in life. You know, something new comes out, everybody abuses it. But this is the opportunity, guys. This is going to, you know, I would say use Grove.ia, get all your prompts, get everything done, and then make it your own, right? Because I always like to do that. But like, go back and rewind that. Just get all of those tips that Mike just said. I'm not going to repeat them because there was so much there. But this is just for YouTube videos. It's going to do so much more. Sorry, back over to you, Mike, because I can see
no problem.
your
Paul, yeah, read the first thing that I've highlighted right here, just so the people on the podcast can hear what we're about to do. So just read that for me.
AI is better and faster, so you can say goodbye to writer's block and hello to world class copy that sells. Groove AI's copywriting. AI uses deep learning to create engaging, high converting copy in seconds.
Okay, so I'm going to even just say that, like, sometimes even creating our own voiceovers, if you've ever done it, Paul, you're like, okay, let me redo that again because I didn't see the hyphen there. And then you're recording, then you got to edit all of this stuff, right? Well, first of all, this copy was written by Groove.ai. But with Groove.ai, you'll be able to do what I'm going to show you in the future. But right now, you can do it with a company called 11 Labs. I'm just going to copy that right there. And I'm going to go into here and I'm going to paste that in. And I'm just going to choose my voice here. Okay. And I'm going to click generate. And I believe I've got my browser set as my microphone.
AI is better and faster. So you can say goodbye to writer's block and hello to world-class copy that sells. Groove.ai's copywriting AI uses deep learning to create engaging, high-converting copy in seconds.
Did you hear that, Paul?
Pretty close, yeah. I would say that was yeah. There was a slight difference to you, but
and
not
there's
much.
Settings here.
Pretty impressive.
that I can do. But try this one here. Let's get rid of it. Yeah, let's try this. I've cloned my voice a few times. Let's see if this one sounds more like.
Okay.
AI is better and faster, so you can say goodbye to writer's block and hello to world-class copy that sells. Groove.ai's copywriting. The AI uses deep learning to create engaging, high-converting copy in seconds.
All right, but if I don't want to use my voice, right? This is one you're hearing all over the web. You're going to be like, oh, I keep hearing this guy. Every YouTube channel is using him. Watch this. And it's just generating.
AI is better and faster, so you can say goodbye to writer's block and hello to world-class copy that sells. Groove.ai's copywriting AI uses deep learning to create engaging, high-converting copy in seconds.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be your voice. They've got over 100 different voices that you can choose from. And if I want to just translate it into German and now upload the same video into German, well, I'd have to put German text in here, but it would read just read it in German. So so that's what's coming with AI. So imagine with Groove.ai, you'll be able to create an entire workflow. Ask it what are viral topics. It'll give you 10 different topics. You'll choose one. You'll say, okay, give me an outline. Okay, now with that outline, write the script, and then you'll basically take that script, paste it into these voice synthesis, and bring it back, and then use something like CapCut. And trust me, there's so many AI things right now that are going to match the visuals. They have them already. These CapCuts all have these different things where you can match it'll if you say, imagine you're walking on a mountain and you stop, right? It's gonna create that slide, and it creates all the animations based on the text. You'll be able to basically take your entire workflow and outsource it to AI. Now, I always say that's why we call it content copilot, not content autopilot. They'll see that, Paul, in the demo. We really prefer that you move your content from AI over to a draft and then go in and rewrite it. Yeah. Just a little bit, to your voice.
Wow. Okay. So, guys, first thing I just want to say thank you so much, Mike. Go and check out the demo, guys, because that's going to show you so much more than we could even get to in this interview today. But I think we're all in agreement, Mike, that we really appreciate you coming on and showing us this, because that's just been amazing. And I'm certainly going to be using it. I'm going to be kind of digging in. You've changed my mind, and that was pretty hard fast against it for some weird reason. Maybe just because it was a bit like, that scene in, do you remember Boogie Nights, where the guy comes in and he says, we're going to VHS, and he says, we may or may not continue this conversation. It was a bit like that for me, right? I knew it was coming. I didn't want to admit it. It was that sort of feeling. And, you've changed my mind. And obviously, whether my mind's changed or not, AI is coming. You might as well go and find out about it, guys. Go and check it out. And most of you probably are way ahead of me on this anyway, but go and check out what Groove's going to be able to do, because Mike's leading the force here. Is basically, he's bringing this company saying, guys, you need this for marketing. This is the tool we're going to use. So go check it out. Go check out the demo at the very least. And then, and then obviously go and sign up for it. But thanks ever so much, Mike. I really, really appreciate the time today. And it's just been even more eye-opening. And looking forward to seeing what's in store for the AI community as it grows and develops. So thanks ever so much, man.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what an amazing interview that was with Mike. And kind of some of the things that you could do with it, like I wasn't even aware of, right? And what we're going to be able to do with videos, what we're going to be able to do with all of our marketing. Like at the end of the day, like I said, it's the wheels that you're going to put on the, like, whatever type of car you want to drive. For marketing, it's going to be Groove.ai, right? And now's the time to take advantage of this before the whole world goes crazy over it, right? And they have a little bit anyway, but the marketing industry, hardly anybody's using it. It's untouched. You want to go and check out this demo. You're going to see what this software can do. I actually had to play around with it today. I got early access. It is amazing. It is literally amazing. So you want to go and check it out. And you want to go and see the demo from Mike, where he talks and shows you the software, shows you what it can do, shows you how you can make videos and everything else. So to do that, just go to tripfunnels.com/AI, tripfunnels.com/AI. The links will be all around wherever you're watching or listening to this. And you can go and check out that demo right now.